"The first rule of a good compost bin," I muttered, pointing a coffee mug at my prize-winning big boy tomato plant, "is that it quietly turns yesterday's garbage into tomorrow's glory. The second rule," I took a sip, "is that Brenda from 427 Sycamore doesn't know it exists." It was 9:04 a.m. on a perfect, sun-drenched Saturday. This was my time. The grass was still damp, the air was cool, and the only sound was a distant lawnmower and the thwack of a newspaper hitting a driveway. I was in my element. A slightly too old for this t-shirt, cargo shorts I've owned since college, and a backyard that was, if I do say so myself, spectacular. My vegetable garden was my sanctuary. My zucchini were obscene, my peppers were prolific, and the secret? The black, unassuming, perfectly functional plastic compost tumbler tucked neatly behind the azalea bushes. It was my baby, my engine of life, and it was completely, 100% invisible from the street. "You know, big boy," I continued, "I think you're ready for another feeding next." Oh, God. My blood ran cold. The newspaper thwack had stopped. The birdsong paused. Even the distant mower seemed to cut out. A shadow had fallen over my yard. Not a cloud, but something far more ominous. Brenda. She wasn't at my fence. She was at my fence, her face a mask of pinched displeasure, visor pulled so low it must have been an FAA violation. She was holding a clipboard. On a Saturday. "David," she said. Her voice didn't carry. It penetrated. It was the sound of a dentist's drill. "Brenda," I replied, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "What a lovely visor." Her eyes, two tiny, judgmental raisins, scanned my yard. They skipped right over the pristine lawn, bypassed the beautifully edged flower beds, and landed like a heat-seeking missile of pure spite on the corner of black plastic peeking out from behind the azaleas. "Just a friendly reminder, David," she said, her pencil tapping the clipboard. "The neighborhood covenant has strict guidelines on refuse containers." I physically recoiled. "Refuse container? Brenda, that's not refuse. That's a compost bin. It's where my grass clippings go to dream. It's a future tomato factory. It's organic. It's emitting," she paused, sniffing the air dramatically, "an organic odor. That's mulch, Brenda. It's the smell of earth. And it's unsightly." Ah, there it was. The word. The word that HOA busybodies use when illegal isn't available. Unsightly. It's the "I don't like it" of the suburban tyrant. It's black, Brenda. It's the color of, well, most things. It's hidden by a bush. The bush has lost some of its opaqueness on the western side. I can see it. Clearly. From my upstairs bathroom window. "Are you spying on my compost bin from your toilet?" Her eyes narrowed. "I'll be noting it," she hissed. And just like that, the shadow retreated. She pivoted on her orthopedic new balances and marched away, her clipboard held high, a beacon of joyless authority. She noted it, big boy," I said to the tomato. Big boy, sagging slightly on his vine, seemed to understand. The war had begun. The perfect Saturday dissolved into a tense Sunday, which bled into a deeply suspicious Monday. I spent the entire time trimming the azaleas, which really meant I was trying to weave the branches together into an impenetrable shrub wall. I felt like a medieval peasant reinforcing a wattle fence against a dragon with a clipboard and a visceral hatred of vegetable peelings. My wife, Sarah, just shook her head. You're obsessed. She's not going to do anything. Noting it is just her version of breathing. You don't understand, I'd shot back, brandishing my pruning shears. She used the U word, unsightly. That's a predicate for an attack. You've been watching too many war movies about gardening, honey. Come inside. Then came Tuesday. Tuesday was mailbox day, and there, nestled between a 2-for-1 pizza coupon and a bill, was the envelope. It was beige. Not just any beige. It was a specific, soul-crushing beige. The kind of beige that's been committee-approved for its inoffensiveness, and in doing so, has become the most offensive color on the planet. It was the color of unseasoned chicken, of 1990s office computers, of Brenda's visor. It had the HOA logo embossed in the corner. A single, sterile oak tree. "Sarah!" I yelled, kicking the front door shut. "It's here! Code red! The beige eagle has landed!" Sarah came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "Oh, Dave, don't be dramatic. It's probably just the newsletter about the community pool bake sale." "Bake sales don't come in beige envelopes," I said, my hands trembling slightly as I tore it open. My thumb caught the edge. Paper cut. "Ah! First blood. She got me." I unfolded the letter. It was printed on cardstock, thick enough to stop a small-caliber bullet. Homeowners Association Covenant Violation Notice. Dear resident of 124 Laurel Creek Drive, a routine inspection on date of Saturday by a member of the Architectural Review Committee, Brenda, has identified a compliance issue. Violation: Bylaw 7.4, Unsightly Yard Fixture, Black Plastic Composting Unit. Action required: the aforementioned unapproved fixture must be removed or permanently screened from all was italicized, neighboring properties and from the street. Compliance deadline: 14 days from the date of this notice. Failure to remedy the situation by this deadline will result in an initial fine of $50. Subsequent fines will escalate with each following notice. We appreciate your cooperation in maintaining our community's high aesthetic standards. Regards, the HOA Board, per Brenda. I stared at it. I read it again. And again. She did it. The absolute, unmitigated witch. She reported the composter. Sarah took the letter, her brow furrowing. Wow, unsightly yard fixture. That's just rude. Your compost is lovely. Thank you. Okay, she said, tapping the paper. So, just move it. Put it behind the shed. It'll be fine. It's not worth $50. I looked at her, aghast. Move it? Sarah, this is prime composting sunlight. That spot gets the 4 p.m. heat. It's the engine of my garden. And behind the shed is shade. It'll just be a cold, wet box of sadness back there. Then buy one of those, I don't know, those little wooden fence things. A lattice. You can grow a nice ivy on it. A lattice? That's what she wants, Sarah. She wants to win. She wants me to bow to her beige tyranny. This isn't about the bin anymore. This is about the principle. Sarah sighed, a long, weary sound she usually reserved for when I tried to fix the dishwasher. Oh no, I see it. You're doing the thing. The thing? I'm not doing anything. I'm being a responsible, wronged homeowner. You're doing the thing, she insisted, where you get that manic, gleam in your eye, half smile. The one you got right before you spent $800 on a professional land survey to prove to the neighbor his sprinkler was hitting 2 inches of our driveway. You're going to win a $5, $50 argument, aren't you? That sprinkler was a nuisance, I protested. And this is a violation Of my soul. Your soul is a compost bin? It's a metaphor, I said, snatching the letter back. I paced the kitchen. 14 days. Remove or permanently screen. She thinks she's got me. She thinks I'm just going to roll over and buy a taupe tarp. I stopped pacing. I looked at the letter. I looked at Sarah. The manic gleam she was talking about? It exploded into a full-on, high-wattage spotlight. What? She asked, her voice full of dread. What are you thinking? Dave, just buy the lattice. I'll even plant the ivy. Don't do this. I held up the letter. Unsightly. She called my baby unsightly. A plan was forming. A beautiful, terrible, magnificently petty plan. Oh, I'll remedy it, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'll remedy it so hard Brenda's going to wish she'd never learned how to write. I'm going to show her unsightly. Dave. Honey, where's my laptop? I need to go to war. Night. I didn't sleep. I studied. Sarah went to bed around 11 after a final, gentle plea of, just please don't get us sued. It's called malicious compliance, honey, I called after her. It's the most beautiful legal form of revenge. That's not what that means, she yelled from the bedroom. It is tonight. I poured a healthy glass of whiskey, cracked my knuckles, and opened the PDF that had been emailed to every resident upon moving in. The covenants, conditions, and restrictions of the Laurel Creek Homeowners Association. 34 pages, single-spaced. I waded through the morass. It was a masterpiece of suburban oppression. Page 4. Mailboxes. Must be model home. 4B. Black. Mounted on a 4x4 cedar post, painted in one of the 3 approved colors. Desert beige, coastal taupe, or executive greiga. Page 9. Fences. No fence shall exceed 6 feet. Chain link is forbidden. Picket fences must have pickets spaced no less than 2.5 inches and no more than 3.0 inches apart. Page 17. Lawn maintenance. Grass shall not exceed a height of 4 inches. Weeds must be dealt with preemptively. Dandelions are considered a declaration of hostility against the community. It was dense. It was mind-numbing. My eyes were burning. I refilled my whiskey. And then, on page 22, I found it. The golden ticket. Bylaw 7.4. The one she'd cited. I read the full entry. It was, compared to the ironclad rules about mailboxes, shockingly vague. Bylaw 7.4. Yard fixtures. All non-permanent yard fixtures, including but not limited to tool sheds, rain barrels, satellite dishes, children's play structures, and composting units, must be maintained in a clean, orderly, and aesthetically pleasing manner. Any fixture deemed unsightly or in disrepair by the Architectural Review Committee must be remedied. There it was. The loophole. The beautiful, subjective, gaping maw of a loophole, aesthetically pleasing. The bylaw didn't define aesthetically pleasing. It didn't specify colors. It didn't forbid certain styles. The mailbox rule had 3 approved beiges. The compost rule just had a vibe, and Brenda, in her infinite hubris, had appointed herself the arbiter of that vibe. I leaned back in my chair, swirling the whiskey. Aesthetically pleasing, I whispered to my cat. Whiskers, who was asleep on the printer. What whiskers is more aesthetically pleasing than the absolute pinnacle of human artistic achievement? What is more pleasing than the high Renaissance? Whiskers snored. Exactly, I said, grabbing my laptop. She wants aesthetic? I'll give her aesthetic. I'm going to give her so much culture, it's going to melt her beige-loving face right off. She wanted me to screen it. She wanted a lattice. She wanted a bush. She was expecting me to hide the bin. Oh no, I wasn't going to hide it. I was going to make it a masterpiece. My first search was local muralists. The results were disappointing. Lots of people who specialized in painting live, laugh, love in swirly script in dining rooms. Lots of "I'll paint your dog" artists. One guy who seemed to only paint dolphins cresting over rainbows. This wouldn't do. I didn't need nice. I needed talent. I needed edge. I needed someone who would understand the why of this project. I changed my search. Local college art department. Aha! A student portfolio page. I clicked through. Lots of angsty black and white photography. Some questionable sculptures made of wire. And then I found him. Leo. Leo's portfolio was insane. It was all spray paint and acrylic. He'd done a massive, photorealistic dragon on the side of a comic book shop. He'd painted a hyper-detailed nebula on the ceiling of a boba tea cafe. He'd even done a sci-fi cityscape on the back of some dude's van. The kid was a prodigy. And based on his About Me page, just trying to pay for ramen and paint, man, he was probably affordable. I found his contact number. I dialed. It rang 4 times, then went to a voicemail that was just 20 seconds of distorted guitar. Perfect. I hung up and sent a text. Me. Hi, is this Leo? I'm looking for a quote on a mural. I have an outdoor installation. I need painted. It's a unique canvas. A minute later, a reply. Leo. Yeah, this is Leo. What's the job? Side of a garage? Me. Smaller. It's a black plastic cylindrical compost bin, about 4 feet high. The 3 little typing dots appeared, and then vanished. 10 seconds passed. Leo. A trash can? Me. A compost bin, and I want Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam on it. The full thing. God, Adam, the angels, the whole deal. How much for a masterpiece? The dots appeared again, stayed for a long time, and then my phone rang. Hello? I answered. Bro? The voice on the other end was young, cracking with disbelief. Are you serious? As a heart attack, Leo. I need the Sistine Chapel on my compost bin. Why? Let's just say I'm in a dispute with my Homeowners Association, I said. There was a long pause on the line, and then a slow, beautiful cackle. Oh my God! Bro, are you in a war with your HOA? I'm a patron of the arts, Leo, I said, smiling. A patron who has been given a 14-day deadline to make his compost bin aesthetically pleasing. And to me, nothing is more aesthetic than the touch of God. Dude, that is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. You're trying to weaponize Michelangelo against a Karen. You get me, Leo. I totally get you. Okay, let's talk details. The creation of Adam. You want the whole shebang? God in the brain cloud thing? The very same. And Adam on the other side, and their fingers, Leo. They have to almost touch right on the bin's main tumble axis. So when I spin it, you know. So when you spin it, they high-five? Leo was audibly vibrating with joy. No, wait, they'd finally touch. Dude, that's deep. I thought so. Can you do it? It's plastic, a little bumpy. Man, I can paint on anything. Plastic, brick, a moving train, your compost bin. Yeah, I can do it. It'll be a masterpiece. All right, Leo. What's the patron of the arts rate for a job like this? Okay, so the high-end acrylics for this kind of detail, plus the outdoor sealant so the sun and your HOA's tears don't ruin it. And the "this is the funniest story I will ever tell" discount. How does $400 sound? Cash? Leo, you magnificent bastard. You've got a deal. When can you start? How much time you got on that deadline? 13 days. But I want it done by, say, day 10, for dramatic effect. I can be there tomorrow. I've just got to finish a wizard fighting a cyborg on a kid's headboard. But tomorrow at noon, I'm all yours. This is for art, man. This is for freedom. See you tomorrow, Leo. And wear, I don't know, quiet shoes. The enemy has ears everywhere. Roger that, he said, and hung up. I leaned back, taking a sip of my now warm whiskey. I felt incredible. I was no longer a disgruntled homeowner. I was Lorenzo de' Medici, and my artist was on his way. Leo arrived at 12:03 p.m. the next day, not in a chariot of fire, but in a 1998 Honda Civic that sounded like a bag of angry hornets. The entire back half of the car was spray-painted in a galaxy motif. He was, as promised, magnificent. He was 20, drowning in a black hoodie despite the 80-degree heat, and had a backpack that looked like it weighed more than he did. Paint was caked under his fingernails and streaked in his hair. "Mr. D?" he asked, pulling out an earbud. "Just Dave, Leo. Welcome to the workshop." I gestured to the driveway. "Righteous. Okay, I brought the primary acrylics, my good brushes, and these." He unzipped the backpack. It was filled, clinking, with dozens of cans of high-end spray paint. The spray paint is for the cloud of God vibe. Gives it that ethereal but street look. Ethereal but street. I love it. Bin's in the back. We had our first problem immediately. The bin was in its prime composting spot, which was, as Brenda had so helpfully noted, visible from her upstairs bathroom. "We can't work out here, man," Leo said, scanning the neighboring houses like a commando. "She'll see the work in progress. You gotta save the reveal. It's all about the reveal." "You're right. We need a shroud, a veil of secrecy." "A tarp? A tarp." A trip to Home Depot was in order. We didn't just get a tarp. We got the biggest, most obnoxiously blue tarp they had. We also got 4 10-foot 2x4s, a box of screws, and a ball of twine. Back in the yard, we set to work. We constructed a deeply unstable, thoroughly ridiculous-looking 3-sided tent around the compost bin. It was a monument to poor engineering, leaning heavily to the left, the bright blue tarp flapping in the slightest breeze. It was, without question, 10 times more unsightly than the compost bin had ever been. It was perfect. We hadn't even gotten the drill put away when she appeared, like a cryptid drawn to the scent of non-compliance. "David!" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. She was at the fence, her visor somehow angrier than on Saturday. "Brenda, good afternoon," I chirped, affecting an air of cheerful, clueless industry. "What?" she said, pointing a trembling finger. "Is that?" "This? Oh, just some routine maintenance. Wouldn't want my yard fixtures to look, I winked. "Unsightly. Gotta keep 'em in tip-top shape." "It's a blue shanty. That is not in the bylaws." "Oh, it's not a shanty, Brenda. It's a temporary maintenance. Shelter. See?" I patted one of the 2x4s, which wobbled ominously. "Just protecting the bin from the elements while it's curing." From inside the tarp, Leo, who had already started cleaning the bin's surface, piped up. His voice was muffled and high. "Yeah, it's curing. Super Curable! Gotta cure it! I shot a shut-up look at the flapping blue plastic. Brenda's eyes narrowed into slits. It looks suspicious. And that color. It's garish. I'm noting it. Oh, it's aesthetically temporary, Brenda. I checked the bylaws. Section 8. Temporary structures. As long as it's not up for more than 15 days, it's all good. And this will be way gone by then. She huffed. She knew I had her, but she wasn't happy. I'll be watching, David. This community has standards. She stormed off. I ducked under the tarp. The bin was sitting there, gleaming. Leo had his mask on. Dude, Leo said, shaking a can of white primer. She is so ready to be mad. This is gonna be epic. All right, Michelangelo, I said. Let there be art. He hit the bin with the first psh of primer. Project Sistine Bin was underway. Painting a masterpiece on a lumpy plastic cylinder takes time. 2 full days, to be precise. My life became a bizarre routine of sneaking food and coffee to the artist hidden in the blue tarp tent in my backyard. Sarah thought I had lost my mind. You're feeding a graffiti artist inside a blue tent to paint a nude man on our trash can, she said on day 1, staring out the kitchen window. He's a muralist, honey. And it's not a nude man. It's Adam. And it's a compost bin. Whatever. Brenda is just standing in her window. She's been there for an hour, just watching the tarp. Let her watch, I said, grabbing a bag of Doritos for Leo. She's building up her own suspense. Inside the shelter, magic was happening. Leo was a master. By the end of day 1, he had the entire bin primed and had base-coated the celestial elements. The God Cloud was a swirling vortex of deep blues, purples, and ethereal whites. Okay, Leo said, his voice muffled by his respirator mask. Big question time. We gotta talk about Adam. What about him? I asked, peering at the bin. Well, Mike, Michelangelo, he wasn't shy. Adam is, he's full frontal. He's rocking the full Garden of Eden. He is. It's canonical. Right. So, are we doing the canonical Adam? Because your HOA lady seems like the type of person who'd faint at a classical pee-pee. I thought about it for a full second. I thought about the beige letter. I thought about the word unsightly. Leo, I said, placing a hand on his shoulder. We are artists. We are patrons. We do not censor the high Renaissance for the sake of the unenlightened. This is art, not a pair of pants. We are historically accurate, or we are nothing. Leo pulled his mask down. A slow, delighted grin spread across his face. Right on, Mr. D. Full frontal. Adam it is. Your HOA lady is going to have a literal medical aneurysm. That's the aesthetic I'm pleasing, Leo. Paint on. Day 2 was when the real danger began. Brenda had escalated. I was bringing Leo a sandwich, turkey and Swiss, when I heard it. A high-pitched, electronic whining. What the hell is that? I whispered. Leo froze, brush in hand. Dude, is that a drone? I poked my head out from under the tarp. Sure enough, a small white quadcopter, the kind you buy at Costco for $80, was hovering about 30 feet up, drifting suspiciously toward our tarp tent. Son of a... I looked across the way. There she was. Brenda. On her back deck, remote control in hand, squinting up at the sky. She's trying to get an aerial view. She's doing recon, I hissed. That's an invasion of privacy, man, Leo yelled. Not to her. She's the Architectural Review Committee. She's basically the CIA of beige. The drone dipped lower, buzzing directly over the tent's open top. Oh, hell no. I looked around, frantic. My eyes landed on my gardening tools. I grabbed the long-handled leaf rake. "Dave, what are you doing?" Sarah called from the kitchen window, her voice full of alarm. "I'm dealing with an aggressive bird," I yelled back. I stepped out into the open, shielded my eyes, and waited. The drone buzzed lower, lower. Whap! I swung the rake like a baseball bat. I connected perfectly. There was a crack of plastic, and the drone went spiraling out of control, landing with a sad crunch in my prize-winning big boy tomato cage. "Oh my God!" Brenda shrieked from across the street. "You broke it! You assaulted my property!" "What?" I cupped a hand to my ear. "A hawk? I think a hawk got it, Brenda. It came out of nowhere. Must have thought it was a squirrel. Nature is brutal." She was screaming something about vandalism and lawsuits, but I just waved cheerfully and ducked back under the tarp. "Dude," Leo said, his eyes wide above his mask. "You are my hero." "Finish the painting, Leo. We're running out of time." He finished that afternoon, but the battle wasn't over. As I was walking Leo out, paying him his $400 in cash, "This is the greatest day of my life, Mr. D." I checked the mail. There it was. Another beige envelope. I opened it. Second violation notice. Violation. Bylaw. 1. Unapproved temporary structure. Garish blue tarp. Action required. The unapproved structure must be removed immediately. Compliance deadline, 24 hours. Furthermore, your 14-day deadline for violation 7.4, unsightly compost bin, is tomorrow, date of day 14. Final inspection will occur at 4:00 p.m. Fines will be levied at 4:01 p.m. They were coming. The final inspection. She'd given me a time. "Oh, this is good," I said, showing the letter to Leo. "Dude, she's not even ready," Leo cackled, stuffing the cash in his pocket. Can I be here for this? I'll hide in the bushes. I'll film it. This is my masterpiece. I have to see the critics' review." "Leo," I said, "I wouldn't have it any other way. Be here, 3:45 p.m., and bring your phone." The next 24 hours were the calm before the storm. The blue tarp flapped mockingly in the yard, a silent beacon of the chaos it concealed. I went to work. I paid bills. I mowed the lawn, giving the now droneless Brenda a friendly, neighborly wave, which she met with a look that could curdle milk. At 3:45 p.m. on day 14th, my phone buzzed. "Leo. I'm here, in the bushes by your fence. Got my phone on landscape. Let's go!" I peeked through the blinds. Sure enough, the top of a hoodie was just visible in our big hydrangea bush. At 3:57 p.m., Sarah came downstairs. How bad is this going to be? On a scale of the sprinkler incident to we have to move. "Honey, this is going to be a triumph," I said, straightening my collar. "This is a victory for art." "It's a penis on a trash can, Dave." "It's Adam, and he is a symbol." "Okay," she sighed, and retreated to the kitchen window. "Just try not to get arrested." At 3:59 p.m., I saw them. Brenda, of course, clipboard in hand, visor on. But she'd brought backup. This wasn't just a fine levying. This was an execution. With her was Gary, the HOA president. Gary was a man who looked like he'd been assembled from beige spare parts. He was a human wet cracker. He wore a golf polo tucked into pleated khakis and looked, at all times, deeply uncomfortable. I opened the front door before they could even knock. "Brenda, Gary, what a pleasant surprise," I said, beaming. Brenda was all business. David, it is 4 p.m. Your 14 days are up. The shanty is also a violation. We are here to issue the initial fine for the compost bin and the immediate fine for the tarp. Fines? Oh, no, you must have misunderstood, I said, putting a hand to my heart. I wasn't ignoring the notice. I was complying with it. Gary shifted. Ah, so, you've moved the bin then, David? Behind the shed? Moved it? Gary, no, that's terrible sunlight. No, I took Brenda's note very seriously. I wanted to ensure the bin was no longer unsightly. So you've screened it? Brenda snapped, pencil poised. A lattice? A new opaque bush? Brenda, I said, shaking my head mournfully. A lattice? That's so pedestrian. No, I went a different route. I wanted to ensure the bin was, per the bylaw you so helpfully cited, aesthetically pleasing. I walked past them, onto my lawn. They followed, like wolves trailing a wounded but suspiciously cheerful caribou. We rounded the corner into the backyard. There it sat, the ridiculous bright blue tarp, flapping gently. As you can see, Brenda said, her voice dripping with triumph, the non-compliant blue structure is still— I interrupted, holding up a finger. That was just the temporary maintenance shelter, the curing tent, but the curing is complete. I grabbed the corner of the tarp. I looked Brenda dead in the eyes. You wanted aesthetic, Brenda? You wanted pleasing? I gave the tarp a dramatic, theatrical yank. Let there be art. The tarp came down in a blue, flapping heap. And the sun. Oh, the sun. The 4 p.m. Prime composting sunlight hit the bin. It was glorious. It wasn't a compost bin anymore. It was a shrine. Leo hadn't just painted it. He had anointed it. The black plastic was gone, replaced by a swirling celestial masterpiece. On the left side, God, looking suspiciously like a ripped, bearded Zeus, surged forward from a cloud of angels, his magnificent beard flowing, his arm outstretched. On the right side, Adam, in all his classical, athletic glory, lounged on a patch of green. And yes, Leo was a man of his word. Adam was canonical. He was 100% au naturel, his pride and joy rendered in loving, historically accurate, flesh-toned acrylic. And their fingers, oh, the fingers. They were poised millimeters apart, right on the central axis seam of the bin. For 5 full seconds, the only sound was a distant bird and a muffled giggle snort from the hydrangea bush. Gary's jaw didn't just drop. It unhinged. His glasses slipped down his nose. Sarah, from the kitchen window, let out a sound that was half scream, half laugh. And Brenda went through a visible, alarming transformation. Her pinched, smug face went from its usual pasty white to a deep, blotchy, arterial red. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She was a goldfish. On fire. Finally, she found her voice. It came out as a strangled squeak. "That is pornography!" I gasped, clutching my pearls. "Brenda? Pornography? Are you drunk? This isn't pornography. This is the creation of Adam. It's indecent!" she shrieked, finally finding her upper register. "It's filth in our community!" "Filth?" I said, stepping back to admire it. "This is Michelangelo. This is the Sistine Chapel. Are you saying," I leaned in conspiratorially, "that the Pope has pornography on his ceiling, Brenda?" That staggered her. She actually took a step back. That's different." "How? Because it's on a ceiling and this is on a compost bin?" I checked the bylaws, Brenda. Bylaw 7.4. Aesthetically pleasing. "And I ask you, Gary," I said, turning to the slack-jawed president, "is this not aesthetic? Is this not pleasing? Look at the shading on God's bicep. Look at the emotion." Gary, the human cracker, was crumbling. Well, he adjusted his glasses. It's certainly detailed, David. Very classical." "It's disgusting," Brenda roared. "There are children in this neighborhood. What are they going to think when they see that?" She pointed a trembling finger at Adam's area. "They're going to think, wow, my neighbor Dave has a deep and abiding respect for high Renaissance art," I said smoothly. "Brenda, this is culture. You wanted me to remedy the unsightly bin. And I have. This bin is now, without question, the most aesthetically pleasing object in this entire beige-colored zip code." I'm calling the police," Brenda shrieked. "The police?" I laughed. "For what?" "Officer, help! My neighbor respects art too much." "For indecent exposure," she screamed, fumbling for her phone. You pervert! You'll be hearing from my lawyer, and you're getting a fine, 1,000 fines!" She jabbed at her phone, her thumb hitting the screen with furious, stabbing motions. "Yes, 911. I'd like to report a man, a pervert, displaying obscene materials in his front yard." She turned and stormed off toward the street to wait for the cops, leaving Gary standing alone on my lawn, staring at the bin. He just stared. He looked at Adam. He looked at God. He looked at me. "The fingers," he whispered, almost to himself. Do they touch when you spin it?" I walked over and gave the bin a gentle turn. God and Adam rotated, their fingers meeting perfectly in the middle. A tiny, choked sound came from Gary. He covered his mouth. I swear, I saw a smirk. He just shook his head, turned, and walked away, a defeated man. Brenda, true to her word, was waiting at the curb. She was pacing. She had not called 911. I heard her giving the non-emergency number, but the effect was the same. 20 minutes later, a patrol car rolled slowly down our street and pulled up. 2 officers got out. One was older, with a face like a worn-out boot, and a name to it that read Krupke. He looked like he'd seen everything, and been disappointed by all of it. The other was a rookie, Miller, who still had that bright, happy-to-be-here shine. "Afternoon, ma'am," Krupke said, his voice pure gravel. "We got a call about obscene materials?" "Officer, thank God!" Brenda practically lunged at him. "This man," she pointed at me, standing on my lawn with my arms crossed, "is a deviant. He is displaying pornography in his yard for all the children to see." Officer Krupke sighed. It was a sigh that came from the very depths of his soul. It was the sigh of a man who's 30 minutes from the end of his shift on a Friday. "Brenda, is that you?" Krupke said, not even looking at her, but at her house number. "Of course it is. This is the 3rd time this month. What is it now? Did Mr. Henderson's sprinkler get your car wet again?" "No!" she screeched. "This is serious. He painted genitals on his trash can." Officer Miller, the rookie, immediately started coughing. He turned away, his shoulders shaking. Krupke just closed his eyes for a second. He painted genitals on his trash can. "All right, let's see it. Lead the way, Brenda." Brenda, vindicated, marched up my driveway, the 2 officers following. I just stood there, smiling. They rounded the corner. They saw the bin. Miller, the poor kid, clapped a hand over his mouth. He was making a sound like a dying goose. He was not winning his fight against laughter. Krupke just stared. He looked at the bin. He looked at God. He looked at Adam. He looked at me. He looked back at Brenda. His face was a perfect deadpan mask. "Ma'am," Krupke said, in that same gravelly, tired voice, "that's the creation of Adam." "It's porn," Brenda insisted, her voice cracking. "It's indecent. Look at it." "I am," Krupke said. "It's a painting. A 500-year-old painting. It's in, and I'm just spitballing here, every art history book on the planet. I'm pretty sure my grandma has a puzzle of it." "But the parts..." "Ma'am," Krupke said, turning to her fully, "by legal definition, this is not obscene or indecent exposure. It's art. It's not a crime to have art. Even on a... what is that?" "It's my compost bin, officer," I said cheerfully. "Just trying to beautify the neighborhood, per the HOA bylaws, making it aesthetically pleasing." Officer Miller absolutely lost it. He was now bent over, wheezing, his face bright red. The shading is really good," he choked out. From the bushes, Leo gave a muffled, "Thank you, officer." Krupke shot a look at the bushes, then back at me. I thought I saw, for just a fraction of a second, the corner of his mouth twitch. "Brenda," he said, turning back to her, "this is a civil matter. That means it's between you and your association. And frankly, it's hilarious. But it's not a police matter. Please stop calling us about Renaissance art, or sprinklers, or suspiciously loud wind chimes. Have a good day, gentlemen." He tipped his cap to me. "Nice bin." He and the still gasping Miller walked back to their car, got in, and drove away. Brenda stood there, vibrating with a rage so pure it was almost visible. She looked at me. She looked at the bin. She let out a shriek. It was not a word. It was a sound, the sound of a mythical bird being run over by a steamroller. She turned, her visor askew, and she didn't just walk. She fled. Back to her beige house, where her door slammed shut with a sound that echoed down the entire, quiet, suburban street. The war was over. I had won. Leo emerged from the bushes, phone held high like a trophy. "I got all of it, Mr. D. The reveal, the Pope line, the cops. This is going on my portfolio forever." Sarah came out of the house, looking stunned. I can't believe it. You did it. You won." "Of course I won," I said, putting an arm around her. "It's art, honey. Art always wins. You are an absolute child, Dave, and I am so proud." The bin stayed. Of course it stayed. What could the HOA do? The bylaws were on my side. The police were, hilariously, on my side. And the story, thanks to Leo's video, which he did post, was all over the local community Facebook page. Brenda, it seemed, had gone into hiding. Her blinds were drawn. Her visor was not seen. The Sistine Bin, as it came to be known, became a local legend. Teenagers, I'm not kidding, started taking selfies with it. One night I even saw a couple of art students on my lawn, sketching it in charcoal. But the best part? The rebellion was contagious. 2 weeks later, Mr. Henderson down the street, The one with the sprinkler painted his HOA-approved black mailbox to look exactly like Van Gogh's Starry Night. The lady at 412, who had been cited for her pink flamingos, replaced them with a 7-foot-tall, bright pink, abstract metal sculpture she called Freedom's Wings. Brenda was probably having a conniption. The neighborhood was, for the first time, actually aesthetically pleasing. A week after the unveiling, I was back in my garden. It was a perfect Saturday morning. I was harvesting a zucchini the size of my arm. I hummed as I walked over to the bin, my sanctuary, my masterpiece. I popped the lid, threw in some kitchen scraps, and gave the handle a good, solid turn. God and Adam tumbled end over end, their fingers meeting, parting, and meeting again, mixing coffee grounds and eggshells into glorious, divine, future tomato food. I looked over at Brenda's house. The blinds were still drawn. It was beautiful. My compost had never seemed so heavenly.